Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. We're continuing on with our countdown to Christmas. It's now the 10th of December and we've got another Necron vs Space Marine comparison video for you today. So as you can tell from the thumbnail, we're going to be doing the Necron Immortals against the Heavy Intercessors. So very simply, what would you pick? You're either Team Necrons or Team Space Marines. Now currently the scores are 5-4 in favour of the Necrons. Now if you've actually yet to see any of the previous videos, hopefully there'll be a playlist at the top right of the screen. If not, go into the channel and you'll find the playlist, all the previous videos that we've done so far, and we're going to continue doing them right up until Christmas Day on the 25th of December. So before we start guys, this is just a little bit of fun. There is no actual competitive nature to these kind of videos. We're just having a little bit of fun in the Christmas period. So let's get on with the comparison for the Immortals and the Heavy Intercessors. So in terms of the points, if you were to take 10 Necron Immortals, it's going to cost you 170 points or 17 points each, which is going to actually be roughly the same as taking 6 Heavy Intercessors for 168 points because they're 28 points each, so they're a little bit more expensive per model, hence why you'll get less of them. So beginning with the stats, you can see from the image here pretty much all the stats are identical apart from the wounds. Heavy Intercessors have 3 wounds in total, whereas an Immortal will have 1. Then the Immortals of course got Leadership 10, which is the Necron standard, but everything else is pretty much the same. But when you take into consideration the unit size that we spoke about in the point section, the Necron Immortal is going to have a total of 10 wounds with 10 models, whereas the Heavy Intercessors with 6 models are going to have 18 wounds. So for me there's an obvious winner with the stats, that's the Heavy Intercessors. As for abilities, Angels of Death, because of course they're a Space Marine. Out of the abilities for the Angels of Death, the ones to look out for are the Bolt of Discipline if they're taking heavy bolt rifles, all the combat doctrines to add AP to all the weapons, and then of course you can combat squad them as well. Gives you a bit of flexibility as well on the deployment. As for the Immortals, they've got the reanimation protocols, which is actually pretty decent because they've only got 1 wound apiece, so you'll be getting them back up on a 5+, with potential of buffing that roll if needed with other areas of the codex. They've also got the command protocols if they're within 6 inches of a character and providing you've got a noble on the table. But for me the reanimation protocols almost does make up for the lack of wounds when compared to a Heavy Intercessor squad, so I'm going to give it to the Necron Immortals in this case. As for damage output, so the Necron Immortals have got 2 options here. The Gorse Blaster, which is 30-inch range rapid fire 1, strength 5 minus 2 AP and 1 damage. Now it's a rapid fire weapon, so if you're firing it over half range up to 30 inches, this is what you're going to roughly get from it. You're going to have 10 shots, roughly hitting 6.7 times and causing about 4.4 wounds to toughness 4 or less units. That doesn't include any My Will Be Done abilities and whatnot, that's just as standard. Now if you were to rapid fire it, so you're going to get within 15 inches, you're going to now have 20 shots because you've got double the amount of shots there, 13.3 hits, causing roughly 8.9 wounds. Now instead if you were to take the Tesla Carbine, you're going to get 20 shots, and because of those 6s exploding, on average you should be getting 20 hits with that, but of course it does depend on the dice gods being in your favour, but all in all you should get 13.3 wounds. Now there's no AP with that, and all these wounds are before any saves are made, so you've got to take that into consideration. Tesla weapon really should be used on weaker factions, 1 wound models with a pretty bad armor save. Now in terms of the Heavy Intercessor, you've got the option of 3 here. You've got the Executioner Bolt Rifle, which is the longer 42-inch range, it's only 1 shot per model, strength 5 minus 2 AP 2 damage. Now if you're taking 6 of these guys, as we said at the beginning of the video, that's 6 shots with 4 hits roughly, causing about 2.7 wounds against toughness 4 or less. And going up against a weaker faction, you can take the Hellstorm Bolt Rifle, which is 30-inch range, assault 3, strength 5, no AP 1 damage, so that will be 18 shots with 6 models, hitting about 12 times on average and causing 8 wounds. Now I don't even really need to go through the Heavy Bolt Rifle or the additional weapons that you can take within the unit, because I think already the Heavy Intercessors have won this one just by those stats and figures there. Now as for synergy for the 2 units, both are core, so it's going to obviously synergize with all the characters and whatnot, whether it's your Overlord for the My Will Be Done ability, or your Primaris Captain to get the Rites of Battle aura going off. But the Heavy Intercessors are also Primaris models, so they're going to interact with the Stratagem Transhuman Physiology, which is going to be massive for this kind of unit because they're 3 wounds apiece, so you can't be wounding them unless in a 4+. And then further to add to that, because they've got the MKX Gravis armor, they can use Unyielding in the face of the foe, Stratagem for 1 command point, which means any damage 1 weapons are going to +1 to your saving throw, so you're going to have a 2+ armor save against damage 1 weapons. So you're kind of covered in both aspects there, covered against high strength weapons or low damage weapons. Either way they're going to be pretty good with that. In terms of the dynasties, for the Immortals, the 3 that I would pick for these guys are either the Saltec dynasty, because they're going to have a better rapid fire range, or you've got the Mefrit dynasty just to get 3 inches extra to your range, or the Nihilak dynasty. With objective secured, they're going to count as double models in terms of who's going to hold the objective. Then if you're going custom, either Pitiless Hunters or Isolationists, they're the 2 I'd choose from the custom codes. Now as for chapters, there's loads of chapters that heavy intercessors can work well with. I'm not going to go through each and every one, but there's just tons and tons of options, so for me they're going to get another point here. Now as for resiliency, as we already mentioned at the start of the video, the immortal unit has 10 wounds in total for 10 models, whereas if you're taking 6 heavy intercessors, that of course is going to be 18 wounds. Now there are ways to further buff these kind of units, so for example the immortals, you can use the reanimation protocols, the resurrection orb, the orb of eternity relic, technomancers or luminosaris to bring models back, or potentially the canoptic reanimator, which isn't really that regularly chosen, but it can also do you a job to help on your reanimation protocols. Whereas the heavy intercessors, of course they can use the apothecaries, they work very nicely with those because they're also on foot. But the main thing for me, which goes quite unnoticed sometimes, is the fact that they got 3 wounds, so that means damage 2 weapons or damage D3 weapons are going to be less useful against a unit such as the heavy intercessors, because they're going to take 2 wounds that have gone through armor to remove a single model. And when you've got 18 wounds in total, that's going to massively help, so that again is going to be a point for the heavy intercessors. So all in all, after adding up all the scores, the heavy intercessors have got this one 4 points to 1. Now those Necron Immortals unfortunately have just come up against a really good unit, one of my favourite units within the Space Marine Codex in fact. So guys, that's what I think. Let me know what you think below. How would you have scored this one? Currently the scores are tied again, both at 5 apiece. Let's see what tomorrow's video brings. So please remember to smash a like on the video and sub if you are new. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.